Mr. Chairman, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The theme of my short talk today is going to be about the changing face of the electricity industry. And I'll pose a few questions to you as to how the future internet can help accelerate that change and make it more meaningful for everybody. First, a little bit about ESB. ESB is the national utility, electricity utility of the Republic of Ireland. And it started out life in 1927 with the building of a Siemens-built hydro station in Ardnacrusha. It went through different phases of electricity growth, including the rural electrification of the country of Ireland. And there are some very interesting anecdotes about change and the resistance to change that happened as we rolled out the rural infrastructure. Parish priests used to get up in the pulpit and say, "Don't let this damn devil's industry in." There were articles in the newspaper talking about, gosh, if we get this in, the hens will stop laying eggs and the cows won't milk anymore. So never underestimate the resistance we have to change. In any event, we finally performed, and now we have one of the most smart grid connections in the world. A recent IBM study said that ESB had the third smartest grid in the world, and that's indeed a big honour for us. I have the exotic title as the head of innovation, which in many ways people would say, how in the name of God could an electricity utility be involved in innovation? Well, we're trying our best, and things are changing and changing quickly. If you think about disruptive technologies and what that has done to various industries, it's completely revolutionized the photographic industry with digital photographs. The internet has almost destroyed the newspaper print business, and almost every industry you look at has had profound changes imposed on it by disruptive technologies, possibly with the notable exception of electricity until very recently. When renewable energy came along in the form of wind energy, it wasn't embraced by the electricity utilities. In many ways, it was resisted. And it was only through the imposition of very significant subsidies that brought the utilities to understand this is inevitable and we need to get on board with it. And then the utilities came on board. But the pace of change that's happening now is, first of all, irreversible, and secondly, happening at a great speed. And the changes that will happen and that will affect in the electricity industry has enormous opportunities for people who really understand the future internet. As head of innovation, I've had the privilege to be at the cutting edge of what is without doubt the next true challenge, the emergence of a new industry model. And I'll speak about that model towards the end of my talk. It will be my personal opinion and not the opinion of ESB. Distributed generation, smart meter and smart grids are the increasing competition to capture the home and businesses with smart devices will revolutionise the electricity industry. I'm advised that people like Google, IBM and Intel already have plans to capture the home by making sure that the home becomes a smart workplace. So communications and data manipulation will be at the centre of the transformation. Ajib spoke about big data. Well, the aggregation of data that electricity companies have will become a huge competitive advantage. The integration of smart devices in the home will provide the data required to carry out predictive analysis on the load shape to enable time-of-day tariffs to be fully exploited in the home. The intermittency of renewable generation will pose demands on our grid systems and result in the need for much more flexible operation of our thermal generators. All in all, we are getting the picture that the control of the modern power systems are becoming far more complex. And while renewable generation sources are essential if we are to have a sustainable electricity system, we need to be in a position to balance the system. As we look to the future, that the changing face of energy, we are actively working on smart metering specification and deployment. It is generally recognised that without a minimum level of public charging infrastructure, the electric vehicle market cannot develop, and this was a factor in the decision by ESB to provide a fully integrated nationwide charging network. This has been achieved by designing an IT architecture that is capable of communicating and monitoring all charge points, irrespective of the charge point manufacturer. The system is accessible to all energy supply companies, available to all electric vehicle models, and can facilitate all payment methods. This public charging infrastructure being installed is designed to be smart with communications and management capabilities. As part of this system, ESB has developed a charge point management system supported by IBM, which allows electric vehicle drivers to recharge and pay seamlessly regardless of location. There are certain industries, as I've said before, that are traditionally cautious about change and not without some level of justification. The energy sector has been one such industry, but we cannot ignore the arrival of the new disruptive technologies. Standing still and refusing to adopt these new technologies is not an option, but neither is the prospect of a non-secure and unreliable energy system. The solution needs stability, standardization, and security. The Internet, as it stands, does not offer a platform on which many would build a modern energy system. Through FinCENI and Finesca projects and under the Future Internet IPP have been exploring the possibilities for the next generation Internet, and that will come. At first, Infinity scenarios were identified which would be of interest. New in Finesca, we were piloting demand-side management, particularly in terms of smart charging of electricity vehicles and secure data networks. We have the opportunity in these trials to utilise some of the generic enablers and also the domain-specific enablers developed under the project and by the Future Internet PPP project. Just as many of us are content to carry out financial transactions over the Internet and use mobile technologies for purchases or banking, ESB foresees that the consumer end of the energy transactions will likely follow a similar path. We will demonstrate higher levels of security and caution when it comes to infrastructure control. We are evaluating cloud security, particularly which data is held on which cloud. We are assessing the options for hosting clouds and the future Internet generic enablers. As with many aspects of the energy sector, standardization in the ICT solutions adopted is a key issue. By working together under the guidance of a program like the Future Internet PPP, the framework exists in which a coordinated approach can develop, non-proprietary protocols which can in turn translate into clear standards on which sustainable solutions can exist. While we are interested in the tools such as generic enablers, which are critical to the success of the future Internet, our primary focus will now be on how we can exploit available ICT to develop our business. If we cannot make the use cases work, then we don't need the technology to enable them. Our future energy networks will rely on future Internet technologies. Data protection and data security are essential for the energy sector. We have a duty to our customers to ensure we keep their personal data safe, as well as ensuring we do not jeopardize the security of the electricity system for either the customers individually or the economy as a whole. It is with this in mind that our focus is on the Finesca pilots is on generic enablers such as those dealing with anonymity and security. The arrival of photovoltaic solar technology in Germany had a very, very meaningful impact on the electricity industry in Germany. Now, Germany took the view that they were going to have to offer significant subsidizations to make this work, and they also allowed people who generated more electricity than they needed to export it back to the grid. One of the results of this was that last summer, the daily peak was met purely by photovoltaic solar technology and forced the retirement of over 6 gigawatts of very, very advanced combined cycle gas turbine plants. That certainly brought E.ON and RWE to their senses and said, we need to do something about this. In many ways, this is leading towards what I believe will be the new industry model. People will offer energy management systems. And it will be a combination of really, really proprietary trading capabilities, which the electricity utilities do have, but they'll have to finesse them to be able to have proprietary intraday trading. They will then go to the customers and they will say, we will offer you an energy management system that will be more efficient and will give you a guaranteed saving of X%. By aggregating thousands of customers together and using advanced algorithm solutions, they will come up with an aggregation model that has and allows predictive analysis to determine the load structure. This in turn will allow the supplier to maximize the benefit to the number of customers they have. But to make this work, it needs real-time communications. And this is one of the possible solutions that I believe the future internet can offer the energy sector. And it is happening as we speak. If you can get that real-time data manipulated and interrogated such that it can be used to predict with accuracy the load features, then you can offer the customer a guaranteed reduction in tariff, and that is possibly the new model for energy. The future internet, machine-to-machine, and the Internet of Things will in turn offer scalability in the handling of data, whether from an electric vehicle charge point, a device in the home, a microgeneration source, or a sensor on a cable. They offer the enablers for ESB and other energy stakeholders to develop new ways to do business through aggregation of smaller generators or consumers into manageable and practical size packets, which add real value to the network operation at transmission level and distribution level, as well as for energy traders, both retail and wholesale. Another interesting experience I had just before Christmas was I was in the company of an energy minister from one of the small African nations, and we were discussing the possibility of bringing rural electrification into the remote areas of his country. And I posed the question that could modern technology be of assistance to them in the sense of a combination of wind turbines, solar photovoltaic panels and batteries could actually bring meaningful electricity generation or operation to remote areas without the necessity to have very, very expensive transmission and distribution lines. And his answer to me was very interesting. He said, it won't work. And I said, but it should work. And he said, no, it won't work because culturally, the people will think of it as a second-class energy supply. They will always look back and say, we want the white man's wires because that's what we know works. So he said to me, when California adopts the model you're talking about, come back and talk to me again, and then we'll talk about it. And it's interesting because it's a cultural shift, and that's the change, the resistance to change I spoke about earlier. We should never underestimate the resistance to change, even in the developed countries. We at ESB are excited by the prospects of what the future holds for our industry. We look forward to developing the solutions which keep our business viable and our energy sustainable for the next and future generations. The future business model I spoke about will become a reality in a very short period of time. People who really understand software, how you can do proprietary trading and bring that kind of serious algorithm analysis and predictive analysis together will be able to make a major impact on the changing face of the electricity industry. The future internet will play a key role in this path forward, and we will embrace it, and as a user, we will guide it forward. Thank you very much.